From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. And in Washington, Eric Severide, Nelson Benton, Roger Mudd, Terry Drinkwater in Los Angeles, Ed Rabel in Dallas, David Dick in Montgomery, Alabama, Charles Osgood in New York, Bill McLaughlin in Paris, and John Lawrence in London.
Good evening. Democrats on Capitol Hill have begun to pick apart President Ford's emergency energy and economic proposals. House Ways and Means Chairman Al Allman, whose committee will be responsible for the legislation, today called for cutting back the president's $12 billion tax rebate plan to $5 or $6 billion. And Allman suggested limiting the rebate to taxpayers who earn less than $18,000 a year. Allman also said he favors gasoline rationing over higher taxes on oil. Meantime, Senators Kennedy and Jackson moved to freeze administration actions on energy in order to give Congress time to study alternatives. Nelson Benton reports.
Kennedy and Jackson will propose that Congress delay for 90 days the most immediate measure in the Ford energy tax program, new tariffs on oil imports due next month. They would also postpone removal of price controls on domestic oil scheduled April 1st. They cite enormous added fuel costs to consumers from the tax plan, as well as added costs of everything else produced or transported using petroleum fuels.
When the American public really find out that this total program of added costs in fuel will run around $55 billion, I think you're going to see the biggest uprising in the history of the nation. And what we're trying to do here is to simply buy time so that we can pass the appropriate legislation.
What we want to do is to be able to bring to this particular issue in the forum of the Congress and Senate of the United States a full examination of this measure that has been announced by the President, to consider all of its implications in terms of the cost to the consumer, in terms of its general overall inflationary impact to our economy and to the equities to various regions of the country.
To be successful, the Kennedy-Jackson measure must pass both houses of Congress and be signed by the President. Jackson says they have the votes to pass it and to override a veto. Nelson Benton, CBS News, Washington.
In spite of this wave of opposition, the White House said that Mr. Ford remains convinced that higher prices, not rationing, is the best way to discourage use of gasoline. The president will hold a news conference tomorrow as another step in his campaign to sell his energy and economic plans to the country. CBS News, of course, will cover it live beginning at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. The nation's largest automaker, General Motors, today joined its two chief competitors in offering a rebate program to lure customers. Chrysler and Ford have had rebate programs underway since last week. Terry Drinkwater reports on their effect in Los Angeles.
In showroom sales pitches, there's a lot of talk of rebates.
And then the $200 rebate back on the new one.
Ford dealers here generally agree. Since the rebates were offered, more potential customers have come by to look. Some report improvement in sales in the past 3 days compared with recent weeks.
We normally sell 6 or 8 cars over the weekend. This weekend was about 15.
Chrysler Plymouth was the first to announce the rebates, and they are helping a little here. Typically, one dealer sold 11 cars in the past week. He'd averaged only 5 a week in December. But 2 years ago, in a typical week, he'd sell 30. Several Ford and Plymouth dealers said the public is confused and thinks the rebates are a gimmick. Local General Motors dealers were relieved by today's Detroit announcement, though prospective Chevrolet buyers didn't exactly flock into the showrooms. We asked a Buick dealer what he thought the rebates would do for his business.
It's got to help. Anything's going to help, and it's got to go up, I feel. I mean, it's down probably at the lowest right now, and the rebate has to help some degree.
Another winning season, one Dodge dealer painted on his window. It's clear 1975 won't be that, but rebates likely can and will help just a bit to make the sales season a little less bleak. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Whether indicative of hope or merely defiance of the economic trend, there was good news in New York as the annual boat show closed its doors. Exhibitors reported business from the sale of $157,000 sailboats to 59-cent nautical key rings was better than ever. and attendance was up 11%, despite a 25% increase in ticket prices. Business is good in Dallas, too, one of the cities that not yet severely hit by recession. While the national unemployment rate in December was 7.1%, Dallas was only 3.5%. Ed Rabel reports.
Dallas, Texas, the Big D, sitting all alone out there on the prairie, feeling fairly proud of itself these days. Proud of its towering new glass-sided office buildings glinting in the sun. Proud of the new ones being built. Of the thousands of newcomers settling and working here, helping to make Texas the third most populous state in the country. And proud of the fact that in the midst of a grave national recession, unemployment here is only about half that of the rest of the country.
Our spirit has been one of growth, of opportunity. The spirit here has been such that we've sought to increase our economic base and done it very effectively.
The city is noted for its big banks and big insurance companies, but Dallas is dependent on no single industry. Its economic success has been in a diverse economy with a healthy mix of jobs in finance, insurance, real estate, retail trade, services, government, and manufacturing. Excepting Texas Instruments, which laid off more than 1,600 workers recently, Dallas seems to be withstanding well the growing joblessness in the United States. Although unemployment increased about 0.6 of a percentage point from October to November, many companies still can't seem to find enough workers. For example, they're hiring 30 to 40 new employees monthly at Dresser Industries, which makes oil field drilling equipment, much in demand these days. In spite of a just-completed multi-million-dollar expansion program, the company is a year behind in filling its orders.
We're having trouble finding skilled people, and we find it necessary to train in-house to provide the skills that we're looking for.
So if somebody, let's say in Detroit or New York or Chicago were out of work and he wanted to work, would this be a good place to come?
Most certainly, we can find room for them. We have a demand that appears to be continuing for at least the next 5 years.
While Dallas is not recession-proof, experts here believe it is one of the nation's remaining pockets of prosperity. Still one of the fastest-growing and most energetic locations in the country. Certainly no place which guarantees absolute financial security, but a better bet than most places. Ed Rabel, CBS News, Dallas.
Averages were mixed on the New York Stock Exchange. Volume was 13,450,000 shares, and average price per share gained 1 cent on both the New York and American exchanges.
When you shave with a Schick Super 2 twin-blade cartridge, you're in for a surprise. It feels almost like shaving with no blades at all. Schick Super 2's Teflon coating makes shaving smooth and safe, while Super 2's twin blades shave you close. Thanks to Teflon, you can barely feel it. And Super 2 fits your Track 2 handle. Schick Super 2 with Teflon makes 2 blades feel like none.
What's that, Jack? A second flavor of Di-Gel. New lemon orange. Now there are 2 Di-Gel flavors. At times, you know how tired you get from the taste of some antacids.
Oh, do I?
Not with Di-Gel. In regular mint or new lemon orange. Both work like no plain antacid can.
How's that?
Di-Gel is different. Relieves occasional heartburn, acid indigestion, gets rid of gas.
Gas?
Gas pressure, fullness. Di-Gel in regular mint
and new lemon orange. I'll try it.
Senate Democrats voted today to bypass the Armed Services Committee and create a committee to investigate the entire U.S. intelligence establishment, including the CIA and the FBI. The vote was 45-7. Roger Mudd reports.
The lopsided vote was a major defeat for Chairman John Stennis of the Armed Services Committee and other members of the Senate's establishment who have carefully watched over the CIA. But the message was clear today. A majority of Democrats is no longer willing to let the old men run things. John Pastore of Rhode Island argued that a special committee was needed to produce something new, something fresh, he said. A broad spectrum, not polarized or apologetic. Stennis, whose booming voice could be heard through the closed caucus doors, said the new committee would be a duplication that could destroy the CIA.
It's just common sense says that an agency of this kind can be destroyed totally by being battered to death in public, because no one will have anything to do with it. If they think it's going to get out or be told, everywhere as to what information they gave.
I want to make it abundantly clear that the military intelligence gathering service of our government and the civilian, the CIA, are absolutely important adjuncts to our security and our survival, and there isn't one senator who wants to tarnish it or destroy it.
The new committee will have a budget of $750,000, the power of subpoena, a deadline of September 1st this year, and a mandate to investigate 10 separate intelligence agencies. It will require a large staff, and an immediate problem, according to one senator, is to prevent the staff from being infiltrated by undercover agents from the CIA. Roger Mudd, CBS News, Washington.
The Rockefeller Commission, which is conducting the administration's investigation of the CIA, heard more testimony today, as Daniel Shore tells us.
In its second day-long session, the Rockefeller panel completed an initial survey of the ground it'll cover, and the vice president reported a preliminary impression that there'd been no large-scale wrongdoing.
Have you found out enough, or do you know enough now to say there was extensive illegal spying domestically by the CIA?
I do not want to make any conclusions until the final conclusion is achieved. But I would not say that what you just said would be the impression left so far.
But back before the panel today was the central figure, ex-director Richard Helms. He's asserted the domestic spying that did happen under him resulted from President Johnson's and Nixon's concerns. Uncomfortable about being interviewed, Helms recalled no written presidential orders.
I don't know if there's ever any written directive to that effect, but certainly it was expressed to me personally.
Well, can you tell
On
me
Wednesday, Helms faces the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, then hopes to fly back to Iran, subject, Rockefeller said today, to possible recall for more questions. Daniel Shaw, CBS News, Washington.
The movement to investigate the FBI got impetus from a report over the weekend that the agency keeps secret dossiers on senators and representatives. An FBI spokesman today denied that there are individual files, but said its cross-referenced overall files do contain information about some members of Congress. That material, he said, includes data on their personal lives and reports on loyalty, character, and reputation. The White House has asked the FBI for a report. In Montgomery today, George Wallace took the oath of office as governor of Alabama for the third time, and there was a dramatic contrast to his first inauguration. David Dick reports.
Of all the public words ever uttered by George Wallace, those he spoke here 12 years ago, the first time he was inaugurated as governor, segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever, those words have haunted him the most. Today, as he took the oath of office for an unprecedented third term, his eye was clearly on another run for the presidency, and new image-making was unmistakable. Jesse Lewis was there, the first black appointed to an Alabama governor's cabinet in this century. And Wallace is expected to appoint soon a black administrative assistant.
Admittedly, many things have changed. Our citizens have been subjected to many and trying and difficult experiences. But as is usually the case, adversity has made us a more dedicated and unified people. We find in our state today a determination on the part of all of our people, black and white, rich and poor, young and old, to work untiringly and in unison for the betterment of Alabama. This, to me, is one of the great advances of this period.
His aides say unofficially Wallace is running for president again. Formal announcement expected before summer. David Dick, CBS News, Montgomery.
The Virginia Supreme Court has disbarred Charles Colson, the imprisoned former special counsel in the Nixon White House. Colson went to prison for complicity in the Ellsberg burglary, and that's why the court revoked his license to practice law. The Supreme Court has agreed to consider how far a community may go to regulate topless dancing. One question, apparently, is whether topless dancing is a form of expression, like speech, protected by the First Amendment.
How many ways can you use Handy Wipes?
Use Handy Wipes on floors and walls and cabinets and shower stalls, for windowsills and kitchen spills, for dusting lamps and bowling balls, for washing dishes, record cases. Handy Wipes for tiny spaces, cleaning mirrors, messy faces, tabletops, and telephones.
And watch this. A messy spot like grape juice simply rinses away. Clean again to use again and again.
And fishing rods and silver sets and Handy Wipes on bassinets.
Handy Wipes wash out to use again and again. Handy Wipes, the reusable cloth with 1,001 uses.
Do you have anything for headaches?
Yeah. Take 2 of these.
Arthritis pain formula. I have a headache, not arthritis.
Doesn't matter. Arthritis pain formula is great for occasional headaches, too. Look at the label.
Also relieves headaches. Must be strong.
You bet it is. APF has more pain reliever in it than most headache tablets. Arthritis pain formula.
Hey, thanks. Arthritis pain formula is great for headaches.
Arthritis pain formula. Great for headaches, too.
Somewhere over the Middle East this evening, in an Air France jet, were 3 Arab terrorists searching for sanctuary. They left Orly Airport outside Paris early today after the second unsuccessful attack on an Israeli plane there in a week. The terrorists and a 3-man French crew headed for Lebanon, but Beirut Airport refused landing permission. The plane finally landed at Iraq's Baghdad Airport, refueled, and took off. An Air France spokesman said Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Egypt had closed their airspace to the jet, now reportedly headed for Aden. Bill McLaughlin reports on the negotiations with the terrorists at Orly.
The first sign of progress in the 18-hour drama at Paris's Orly Airport came at dawn. As French police commandos armed with U.S.-made M16 automatic rifles stood by, ready to attack, the French government called for the help of the Egyptian ambassador in Paris. He came to the airport to start negotiations with the 3 Arab gunmen holding 10 people hostage. As soon as the French government was sure there actually were hostages being held in an airport washroom, it decided it had no choice other than to make a deal. The talks went swiftly. Almost immediately, 2 hostages, a pregnant woman and her young daughter, were released. The gunmen made an all-too-familiar demand, a plane and a crew to take them to an unknown destination. The exchange took place on an airport runway. All the hostages were released unharmed, and the gunmen boarded an Air France 707 jet manned by a volunteer French crew. The gunmen took off, facing a new problem, the search for a sanctuary. Tonight, some tough questions are being asked in France about the effectiveness of the police and security at the airport. But the question most often being asked was whether France's pro-Arab policy was doing it any good. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News at Orly Airport.
Not long after yesterday's terrorist attack in Paris, there was an attack in London. This one aimed at 2 hotels popular with London's Jewish community. John Lawrence reports.
The gunmen struck 2 of London's leading hotels within 3 hours of each other, firing automatic weapons from their automobiles. The 2 hotels, the Portman and the Carlton Towers, were crowded with Sunday evening diners and guests when the buildings were riddled. 7 people were hurt, but none seriously. Many of the hotel patrons were Jewish, attending a wedding at one hotel and a dance at the other, leading to speculation that the attacks may have been staged by Arab guerrillas. But a London spokesman for the PLO denied any Arab involvement and condemned the shootings. Scotland Yard doesn't know whether the IRA, an Arab group, or some other extremist organization was behind the attack. But with the increasing level of terrorism in Britain, the police admit it could be anyone. John Lawrence, CBS News, London.
With the Middle Eastern oil-producing nations holding the economic trump card in this current oil crisis, the Persian Gulf has become one of the most strategic bodies of water in the world. Well, today, Pentagon spokesman confirmed that the United States is negotiating with Britain for occasional use of British airfield facilities on Masira Island at the Persian Gulf's entrance. Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai warns that fierce competition between the United States and the Soviet Union is bound to lead to world war someday. Zhou delivered his warning to China's recent 4th National People's Congress. Zhou also said that relations with the United States have improved somewhat, but the Sino-Soviet dispute has worsened. 3,000 rock-throwing Greek Cypriots demonstrated outside an American embassy building in Nicosia today, and into the middle of the crowd walked Cypriot President Archbishop Makarios, who preached nonviolence and led the demonstrators away. It was the 5th day of protests on Cyprus over the transfer by Britain of 10,000 Turkish Cypriot refugees from British bases to Turkey.
I'd like you to meet a grandmother. Me. I'm the great-grandmother. And I'm the mother.
People often tell us what a healthy-looking family we are.
That's because we take care of ourselves. We eat right, exercise.
And we take Geritol to make sure we get enough iron and vitamins.
Geritol, more than twice the iron of any ordinary supplement and some very important vitamins.
Here's my son, and he's 9 months old.
Now I'll tell you our ages.
Oh, no, you won't.
Geritol, every day.
You'd never think that people who live out here, where the days are filled with hard work, fresh air and sunshine, and nights are quiet, would sometimes have trouble falling asleep. But they do.
Sure, I have trouble falling asleep once in a while. Everyone does. So I take Sominex.
I put in a full day. What I don't need is trouble falling asleep at night. So I keep Sominex in the house.
Sominex? It helps me relax and feel drowsy so I can get to sleep.
Sominex. It helps take the trouble out of falling asleep.
Senator William Proxmire charged today that the military spends almost $14 million a year maintaining 300 golf courses for officers and servicemen around the world. Proxmire said the money comes directly out of the defense budget, is a waste of taxpayers' money, and that the courses ought to be abandoned or open to the public. For a while, the century-old dream of a tunnel under the English Channel linking Britain and France looked as if it might finally be realized. Work was started on both sides, but most of the progress coming from the French shores, seen here. But all that's over now. Britain, citing modern-day inflation, announced today it must withdraw from the $4.5 billion project. France said it regrets the decision and hopes the project one day may be revived. Here's Eric Severite's commentary on the Channel Tunnel.
A lot of forces for international togetherness are in motion and a lot of forces for apartness. A clutch of finance ministers got together the other day on various principles for a financial safety net to break the fall of countries tumbling into debt for oil. But then Moscow repudiated the U.S.-Russian trade agreement of 3 years ago on grounds that Congress has violated its terms in the enabling legislation. And today Great Britain repudiated the year-old agreement with France for digging the Channel. That's a 23-mile tunnel under the English Channel from Dover to Calais. The British government is going to have to pay out some $80 million to private companies who have been digging away at their end. The French government is so mad it doesn't want to pay out anything to the companies at their end. The channel idea goes way back to Napoleon's time. He had military mischief in mind, not tourism. The British Parliament has turned down the idea approximately 35 times by last count. For years, Britain wavered back and forth on membership in the European Common Market. For the last dozen years, it wavered back and forth on the tunnel, finally giving the go-ahead and now giving the stop signal again. Cost is the excuse this time. The estimated cost has jumped at least threefold by reason of inflation in the last 2 years. Very much like the District of Columbia subway here, where costs advance faster than the shovels. But there are deeper reasons for Britain's indecision. The ancient sense that alien place, the continent, is too close to the sceptred isles already. The British Navy's loathing of the thought of foreigners and other things crawling around underneath their battlecraft. They can't elevate them guns that low. The trouble is that Britain no longer knows just what it belongs to. Not to an empire anymore, hardly to the Commonwealth, which is pretty much symbol and sentiment now. Not exactly to the English-speaking world across the Atlantic, and not exactly to Europe. When this reporter went about the islands a dozen years ago on the tunnel story, we asked people what they felt they were. Ultimately, they said, well, just British. As a disgusted Paris newspaper said today, Britain is an island and intends to remain an island. They like that channel with its deadly fogs, its gale winds, its towering waves. They call it the English Channel, after all. The French don't call it the French Channel, though they could. They just call it La Manche, the sleeve. Presumably, there will always be an England. Assuredly, there will always be Englishmen who prefer seasickness to foreigners.
K. Summersby Morgan, the British chauffeur for General Dwight D. Eisenhower during World War II, died today of cancer in Southampton, New York. She was 66. It was recently reported that during the war, Eisenhower considered getting a divorce to marry Miss Summersby, but he was discouraged by President Truman and General George C. Marshall. Miss Summersby was divorced from a New York stockbroker. She was a costume designer for the stage.
This is a demonstration of strength, the remarkable strength of Elmer's Blue All. Watch. You see, Elmer's is stronger than most any of those household jobs you'll ever have to do. And when you're stronger than the jobs you have to do, you get to be America's favorite glue. Elmer's Glue All.
I smell clean. Whoa! I smell clean. Whoa! With Lifebuoy, I'm not just clean. I smell clean. Whoa!
He's gone bananas.
You know, getting me Lifebuoy was terrific. Now, one morning shower and I'm not only clean, I smell clean. Whoa!
Lifebuoy deodorant soap. It's not enough to be clean. You gotta smell clean.
Oh, hey, you really do smell clean.
Harriet Wardlaw, an unmarried pregnant teacher in Austin, Texas, has lost her bid to return to her classroom job. The judge ruled today that Miss Wardlaw was not a victim of sex discrimination when school officials transferred her to a librarian post because of her pregnancy. Thomas Hart Benton, one of America's best-known and more controversial artists, is dead at the age of 85. Charles Osgood has a report on the man and his work.
Thomas Hart Benton finished this painting the day he died, yesterday. He'd gone back out after dinner to the studio in the back of his house in Kansas City to look at it when he was stricken. Tom Benton happened to believe that a painting ought to be about something, about people preferably, and that it should tell a story, picture some human reality. His paintings were unmistakably American. His themes, the frontier, the Midwest. His hometown, Joplin, Missouri, at the turn of the century. A Benton painting has an almost muscular quality about it, earthy and colorful. The shining land, the sweaty laborer, lively as a country reel, headstrong as a Missouri mule. Some New York critics didn't think much of Benton, called him a cornball, among other things, and the truth is he didn't think much of them either, or of abstract art. Decadent is what he called them. A year ago, last summer, Mike Wallace spoke with Benton at his summer place in Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts.
I think that the intellectual world of New York is even worse than the Congress of the United States if you're dealing with ideas.
Explain, elaborate.
Well, simply, it's repetitious, common, redundant, and boresome.
A bunch of people who get together and...
Got to be get together and mouth at each other.
Even if critics didn't like his stuff, people did. Recently, Benton's paintings have sold for as much as $60,000. Millions saw his mural of the growth of the West at the funeral of former President Truman, a fellow Missourian and a Benton fan. It was Harry Truman who said in his plain-talking way that Thomas Hart Benton was the best damn painter in the United States. Charles Osgood, CBS News, New York.
A bank robbery in Pittsburgh today, and witnesses gave this description of the bandit. A man wearing a red wig, orange pants, a brown and red plaid coat, blue shoes with white soles, and carrying a patchwork purse. The robber disappeared into the crowd. And that's the way it is. Monday, January 20th, 1975. This is Walter Cronkite, CBS News. Good night.
I smell clean. I smell clean. With Lifebuoy, I smell clean.
Hi, Daddy.
Hi.
Daddy, won't any soap get you clean?
Sure, but it's not enough to be clean. You gotta smell clean. That's why I use Lifebuoy. So, I smell clean.
Lifebuoy deodorant soap. It's not enough to be clean. You gotta smell clean.
Daddy, you really do smell clean. Now, where's my present?
Acid in your stomach can sometimes splash into your esophagus to give you
Heartburn. Oh, do I have heartburn?
Introducing soothing new Alka-Seltzer Gold, the pure antacid you drink. Down it goes past your esophagus to your stomach to wash heartburn away.
Heartburn? You're all washed up.
New Alka-Seltzer Gold washes heartburn away. For headache with upset stomach, use original Alka-Seltzer with specially buffered aspirin.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. This is CBS.
WLAC-TV, Nashville.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chris Clark. About 40 minutes ago, a fire caused some damage to a Nashville apartment. We'll have an action cam report coming up. The investigation